Hello, everyone, and welcome in to another episode of the TakeCast. In this episode, I am joined by Deeze. He is the host of the We Do a Little Pod. You know him best for shitposting, thought leading the podcast with, of course, our good friend Andy. Deeze, it's a sad day here in America as we are mourning the meniscus repair of JJ McCarthy, but we are going to do our best to get people's mind off of this sad news where we're all having to adjust to Sam Darnold being in our lives a lot more than we thought. How are you doing on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon?
I'm doing good. I have weighed less JJ McCarthy than I thought I had. We were just talking about it. Looks like I'm clocking in under 4% across DraftKings and Underdog. I do have a little bit more in Eliminator, closer to 8% there, which I don't know what I was thinking. I did all my Eliminator drafts in May and early June and was kind of a little bit more bullish on rookie QBs than I probably should have been. But, this just gives us a good click now at Sam Darnold. Like, I think we've seen what Josh Dobbs and Nick Mullins can do. And I think that, we think Sam Darnold's better than them. And
yes, I do.
He has the weapons. So, I'll probably be taking Sam Darnold like right after that Geno Smith area now. If he's there. I think maybe he might be getting steamed up. I haven't done a draft since, the news just broke like 15 minutes ago.
He's got his fanboys. He's got his fanboys out there. The thing I'm most excited about is we're going to get more good information on how much this Kyle Shanahan, McVay, offense boosts up quarterbacks, because Darnold has played a lot of dog shit football in his career, a lot of bad turnovers. I mean, it is crazy though. The two guys who he's thrown the most passes to in his career are Robbie Chosen Anderson. I can't remember which one he actually goes by now. And Jamison Crowder. No, those are his two leading receivers of all time. No one else has more than 100 receptions from Sam Darnold. Now he's throwing to Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. It's gonna be a fascinating science experiment, which I wish more stuff like this happened in the NFL. Like I want Fields to be playing like half the time with Russell Wilson. NFL coaches just don't like to do weird shit. But I hope we see a 4,000-yard passing season from Sam Darnold. Truly.
Are we taking Sam Darnold bets to lead the league in passing this year? There's some good odds on this.
I would take that at there's no way you get, true odds or whatever, but I'd take that at like 150 to 1 or something like that, or maybe 125, just because Nick Mullins had a 400-yard passing game in this offense. The defense is not going to be good. They play, I think, with their road games, I think they play 11 games in a dome, I believe. So it's definitely possible. It's definitely
I saw someone made the bet yesterday. That's why I asked. I think they bet under $200 and they're getting paid out close to 18 grand if it hits. But that was before this injury. Obviously, the injury is going to change those odds drastically. But I saw some sickos on Twitter yesterday, people who had like over 30% Darnold already, and just a whole bunch of Chad shit, honestly. So I'm excited. I love when, I hate to see people get hurt, but I love when it shifts a bit of the drafting landscape and I have bullets left to fire in these big contests, because I really try to keep my entries on pace with the fill rate and not just like fire off everything early on and blow my load, because I've learned through last year specifically just like missing out on Puka and Kyron a lot because I was just like done with my drafts too early and trying to do better about adjusting myself. Like, Jordan Whittington, I'm just clicking on him a lot now, and I was not clicking on him last month. I think that's
Mason. A great example.
Same with Mason from San Fran. I, might have like 2% Eli Mitchell or something, but now I'm just jamming in some Mason shares. Even shit that I fucked up. Like I should have been taking more Braylon Allen, but you watch him in preseason, you're like, oh, this guy is better than I thought he was. Like I need to just adjust. Okay, I'm taking Braylon Allen at 160. Like whatever, fuck it. Like we're getting some Braylon Allen.
I mean, the marginal values of those picks don't matter at all. The difference between an 18th round pick or a 15th round pick. And we draft, we draft teams. We don't draft exposures. The exposure screenshots, they're all fun. I mean, the exposure screenshot, I suppose, it's the same thing as tweeting out a screenshot of your giant Memecoin bag before you press the sell button. And if you don't press the sell button, it doesn't mean anything. And if you don't draft good teams, it doesn't mean anything, which is a nice little, that is a professional transition to the meme coin game. Cause the meme coin, look, I did NFTs, I did Top Shot, I did all that stuff. I did Friendtech. Friendtech was fun.
Did you sell the airdrop on Friendtech when you got it?
No, of course not. I'm a community member. Yeah, that was I really fumbled that one. Friendtech I thought was cool because I like practical applications of crypto anything that I could explain. Like I could explain to a non-crypto native, just like a normal guy in one of my fantasy football leagues, I could explain to him, this is why people like Friendtech. This is how you use it. This is how it all works. They would get it. I sold when the SIM swapping thing happened. I was like, I can't do this. Like this is already like annoying.
You're fully doxxed. I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't be
yes.
the hardest thing to SIM swap you if you have any amount of capital in there that can be stolen from you against your will. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah. I just didn't want to deal with it. But the meme coin thing to me, this is my perspective. The meme coin thing to me was like the shit that I hate about crypto. I like the player versus player element where like it really is just like, but what the analogy you were making, like a Call of Duty game where you were just trying to beat these other, sweaty dudes online. You're trying to beat them to the
hot
punch.
Potato on Rust.
Exactly. But what I don't like about it, obviously, is very easy sales pitch. You go to Capitol Hill and you're an anti-crypto lobbyist and you say, look at what these absolute degenerates are doing. They're pumping millions of dollars into total vaporware. They know it's worthless. The developers know it's worthless. Everyone involved knows it's worthless. They're just gambling. And I hate that. So I opted out, one, because I had no interest in putting the work in, right? Of being like, oh, which new meme coin on Solana is going to make me a millionaire? No interest in putting the work in. And two, I am like morally opposed to the existence of these meme coins to some degree.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I had a couple opportunities to invest in platforms that basically make meme coins, and I turned them down. Not because I thought that, they were probably good investments if I just cared about the money, but I don't really want to see more saturation in memes in the space. So I kind of had to put my money where my mouth was in that respect. I do think there are some like bigger, older meme coins that might have a little bit more staying power and validity, but the stuff that's come out in the last like 3 months is just extremely PvP. Like there's probably only going to be one pump, but you don't know where that pump's going to stop. So it's just this big game of musical chairs or hot potato where you're staring at BullX or Photon or one of these shitcoin trading terminal managers, and you're trying to buy things very early, like, under 100K market cap. Then you have to be delusional enough to think like, oh, this could go to like 10 to 100 million, which 99.9% of them don't do. But if you find the one that does, you're going to make 6-7 figures off an initial amount of less than like $1,000. So it's a pain in the ass. It's very competitive. It's gotten even more competitive over the last 3 months. I think the best example I have of any of these doing really well is back in March. I don't know if you saw Book of Meme or BOEM.
Yes. Yeah.
But that was, I joke that it's like the most egalitarian meme coin I've ever seen. Basically, this bigger artist named Dark Farms put out a tweet that he was doing a pre-sale for a token. There hadn't been any shitcoin, meme coin pre-sales that were public and successful in a long time, and it wasn't really a popular meta. And he put this thing out. You had, I think, like 24 hours to contribute to it. And like, long story short, if you put in 10 Sol and you walked away from your computer for 48 hours, you made over $300,000. So it was like, you put in $1,500, walk away for 2 days, hit the sell button when you come back, you made at least 300 grand. And ever since that happened, it's just been harder to make money off meme coins. Like that token went from nothing to 2 billion and listed on Binance in 3 days. And I've never seen anything like that. And I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that again.
Shouldn't that theoretically make the space more rich. They're because you know as well as I do. Okay, so it goes to 2 billion market cap. Let's just let's thought experiment or toy game this. Let's say everyone who put in 10 Sol and made 300,000 sold for USDC and put it back on Solana. I mean, obviously, now you and I know people don't do that. People get married to their bags. They think it can go higher, whatever. But let's
It's
say
still holding steady too at not to interject, but it's still 483 mil. So it's down like 75% from all-time high.
But you're not at zero.
It's,
But you're not at zero.
yeah, I mean your 10 Sol that you put in right now is still worth like 150 grand.
Pretty
If not,
good.
maybe a little less. But it's still like, even though it's down 75%, you're still up a ton. The
So
the thing
shouldn't
is people
that
sell
mean
it and then they
yeah.
buy the next thing because they think it's going to happen again. And then it's just like that euthanasia roller coaster of like smaller and smaller peaks
Yeah,
all the way
that's what
down.
I'm asking. Is crazy successful project gets to 2 billion market cap, people sell, they take their USDC. Where does that money go? I mean, I assume some people are taking gains, but a lot of people, I saw this, the thing I'm most familiar with this is from Top Shot, where
Roll
loads
it
of the
back in.
people would make their money and then they roll. I mean, even I rolled some of it back in, which there's not really a day that goes by that I'm like, that was
I,
so stupid.
I did the same thing. I turned like 10 grand into over 100. And then the bad thing about Top Shot was all our money was locked in the platform. There was no way to
Right.
withdraw
There's
it.
no way to get it
I think
out.
there was
Yeah.
like a withdrawal cap of like $1,000 or $2,000 a day. And you're like, holy shit, it's gonna take me half a year to get all my money out of here. Like, I guess I'm buying a LeBron James common moment for $1,000. Like, why would I withdraw this when I can just buy these base set that I'm looking at first edition Charizards and I'm like, okay, these are still worth a bunch. Like maybe LeBron's like a first edition Charizard here. And spoiler alert, he
He
wasn't.
wasn't.
He
Yeah,
wasn't.
spoiler alert, he wasn't. So I guess, because the downturn of the NFT market was kind of related to downturns in overall economic conditions. I mean, same thing is true with the first NFT run, like way back in the day, like 2018, 2019 stuff. What do you think is the explanation? Is it just people are tired? I mean, is it just and the attention on the space has gone down?
Yeah, so if you were to look at prices on some of this stuff in 2020 compared to now, it's still up quite a bit too. Like punks, when I bought my first punk, it was like $1,000. They're still like 60 grand. They're not 400, 500 grand, but they're still 60. Bunch of these art blocks projects, like the shit behind me, like bought a couple of those for under an ETH. Like they're still 20, 25 ETH. They're not 200 ETH, but they're still worth more than a lot of us bought them for. And I think a lot of people are realizing like, oh, this stuff's down a lot, but I'm still up a bunch of money and maybe I should sell it. And then there's not that many new buyers who are coming in like super
Right.
stoked to buy it. Like right now we're seeing a big punk guy. He claimed over like 200 punks. His name is Wilcox. And he's been recently selling a bunch of nice punks for like 60, 70 grand. And it's like, wow, you weren't selling these when they were 400 grand, but now you're like, well, shit, I have a couple hundred of these and they're still 70 grand a piece. That's like a lot of money. Holy shit. Maybe I should sell some of those. So we're seeing some of these like bigger whales finally decide like, hey, I'm down a lot from all time high, but I'm still up a ton from where I started. So I should sell. And then we're not seeing a bunch of big buyers step in. There's been a couple big guys like, people worth 100 mil. I mean, there's a guy who's worth a couple billion who's been buying some really nice stuff this year. But that one person who's putting in like 10 to 20 million dollars can't really like move the market that much when there's so many people trying to still sell. I do obviously think like a lot of what we saw was very short-term speculation based, and then that got kind of driven out pretty quickly after interest rates went up and Bitcoin, ETH, Solana went down in price. But there is a core group of people who stuck around who do really value this stuff and aren't selling it. It just feels like a slower burn, and there's very little attention on it right now because people are chasing the hot ball of money, which has really just been around memes. Like even outside of NFTs, a lot of the non-meme tokens are not doing great, right? Like you have a bunch of these overvalued L2s in the Ethereum ecosystem that have just been bleeding. You have a bunch of old DeFi tokens, which haven't been doing great. Basically, anything that isn't Bitcoin, ETH, Solana, or a certain basket of memes is doing horribly compared to Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and that basket of memes. So people see that and it's like, okay, well, why do I hold any of this stuff when I can just hold these winners? And I think eventually it will shift back because memes personally just feel like they burn you out trying to keep up with it. At least with
That's
NFTs.
the thing, man. It's like the meme stuff is like, oh, God, what was it? The day OJ died, there was like, you know, 900 new memes on the Solana chain. It's like, who has the time, dude?
The worst was this Elon Trump talk the other night. So Pump.fun is one of the, I mean, it's the biggest, we'll call it Memecoin accelerator or Memecoin creator, whatever. But
Yeah.
Pump.fun, man, it was going fucking crazy when the Elon debate was going, or not debate, conversation was going on. Like anytime Trump said a word, if he reiterated it more than 2 times, there was like 10 tokens for that word. Like I tweeted out this example. He was talking about like rough people. And he said rough people like 5 times. So I went to pump.fun and typed in rough people. There was 10 different rough people tokens that had all come out within the same like minute.
But if you are the quote unquote dev of one of these tokens and just what it randomly takes off, I mean, why would you not create a rough people token if there's a 0.1% chance of it becoming, I mean, even say I mean, how about a $500,000 market cap?
Not
like
even
you're
like
still
these
making
people
money.
don't make the token and the market cap's like 5K. And if it goes to 25K, they hit a 5X. They don't care, fucking sell it and go on to the next one. Like they don't have the aspirations of like, oh, maybe this is the next $1 million coin. They have the aspiration of like, maybe I can quick scope this guy on Rust and dump it for a 3 to 5X. And then Trump's going to say another word in 1 second and I'll make the next new token. And that's kind of where we're at with a lot of these memes. And we're seeing a lot of bleeding too in like the bigger memes as people, I think they either just sell to get out of the meme game altogether, or they're selling to try to buy the hot new one and then they're losing more than if they just held the one they sold.
That's the slippage cycle. That's the I theoretically broke even over 19 trades, but I had to pay gas and I mean, I'm assuming that I have not done any of this, but I'm assuming that these associated platforms have some degree of rake, you know, like where you're not doing feeless trading.
Yeah,
So you
most people are not even aware of what their slippage setting is, and they're using a bot that might have but most slippage should be at like 1% or less. But most people are not that smart, and like some of these bots have settings where people are using 5 or 10% slippage and maybe 20%, and they're just getting MEV'd. Like their transactions just getting rinsed for whatever the max slippage is every time, and they don't know. They're trying to turn a couple $100 into a couple 100,000, and they don't really understand all the mechanics at play.
and it's tempting in a high profit environment. Like, what does it matter? What does it matter if you're losing 7%, 3%?
Yeah, if you're gonna make a 10x, like you don't care about
yeah,
7%.
when every trade is a win, when every trade is, you know, trading, you know, you're making 1%, you're not
Like
beating
the
the rate.
royalties and NFTs too. Like I mean, royalties on a lot of the NFT projects. If you're trading on OpenSea, there was a built-in 2.5% fee, and then on top of that, most of these things had royalties of 5%. So you're paying 7.5%, but no one cared because it's like, well, I doubled my money. Like, you're happy to pay
What does
seven
it
and a half
matter?
percent if you double your money. But when you're taking big volume losses, like that 7.5% really adds up, and you're starting to realize like, wow, that 100 grand is now only 92.5 grand, and if I do it again, it's going to be like 86 grand or whatever. And then if I do it again, I'm going to be at 80, and it's like, what the fuck am I doing? But yeah, it's
Which is
it's a good time for
so
best
based.
ball.
It's a good time for best ball, which is, so to my understanding, again, very far. I don't, well, to say I'm not involved in this stuff is not true at all, or not 100% true. I've got some Solana that is sitting on MarginFi. It's been
Are you
parked there
staking it?
for, yes, it's been parked there for 6 months. I haven't touched it. It's not even very much. I think it is like 30 or 40 Sol or something.
You're getting
it's
points.
sitting there. I'm getting points. So if MarginFi ever actually does a token or an airdrop, I am in line to be there. I chose the wrong pony. Because there was a competing site or
Camino.
a competing, Camino. Yeah.
I have all mine in Camino.
Yeah, so I didn't do Camino. And thinking back on it, absolute idiot shit of me to not do Camino. I would have chosen Camino just based off the fact that it's based off a Star Wars planet, but I just I didn't even think logically
the
through all those
MarginFi
things.
founder had a breakdown on the timeline, and there was a 3-day span where you couldn't withdraw your Sol from MarginFi. And I had originally had a couple $100,000 split between MarginFi and Camino. And once that MarginFi shit happened, I was like every hour trying to withdraw. As soon as I got all my money out, I took it all out and just threw it into Camino. And the airdrop I got from Camino the first round, like, wasn't that much money. I think I sold it immediately and got like $5,000. So it was nice. Like, I'm not going to complain.
Sure.
But it wasn't like, oh, I had hundreds of thousands of dollars in there and I got another $100,000 for free. It was like, here's a airdrop that's like less than 2.5% of what you have in here, but like, we take the free money. Especially for me, like, I hold it in Jito Sol and M Sol, which are the liquid staking tokens. So if you're supplying it, you're also accruing the underlying stake yield.
Same.
But yeah,
I've got Jito Sol as well.
The Jito airdrop was a good one. That was a cooker, and somehow I completely missed it, even though Andy was telling me for like a month before the airdrop to just get some Jito Sol. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm chilling. I have all my shit staked through Phantom. That was a mistake in hindsight, but I think maybe we'll get back to the ebb and flow of like airdrop season, right? Because the airdrops that do well are normally, it's kind of like the meme coins. Like, when something's flavor of the month, it's a lot harder for there to be surprises and for things to do well because everybody's farming, everybody's trying to get the next thing. And then once there isn't a cooker for a while, people just kind of forget about it. And then that allows there to be another airdrop cooker. And then, you make 10 grand out of nowhere, 50 grand out of nowhere. And you're like, oh shit, yeah, I forgot we can do that in here. And then the next like 6 airdrops all disappoint and suck. And then people forget about them for a year. And then hopefully, the cycle repeats itself. I feel like we're nearing the end of that cycle for memes where like none of these new ones are really cooking too much. Maybe like the 0.01% are, but once there's less saturation and less attention on them, it kind of allows the new hot thing to pop back up and do well.
Well, the airdrop meta was a big part of Ethereum and Solana for a long time. I mean, I actually kind of similar to meme coins. It's like, do I think points are a good idea? Do I think financially rewarding people for using your platform is sustainable? Like, probably almost for sure, no. I mean, this has been my thing with DeFi, with all this stuff forever. Like, I am conceptually super open to the idea of decentralized finance. Like, allow people to trade, do what they want with their money without, financial oversight, like let people make the risk, all of that stuff. On board with all of that. But like I don't think it can just be gambling, right? I think it kind of misses the point of changing traditional finance if it's just gambling. So I don't know. I like conceptually still very in on the idea of DeFi, but like I always remember Andy had this great tweet when the ENS, remember when the ENS airdrop token came out, and he was like, that was good times. But it was like, like, oh, I'm feeling so empowered to govern as the price goes up. And it's like, actually, those two things are kind of not related to each other because you're just going to have an oligarchy. If the token is very expensive, you're just going to have the cabal in charge of everything because the cabal is the people buying the tokens.
That's what happens with most of the governance things. Like, there's this illusion of governance, but then there's a few, people who hold 1% plus of the supply who have a very outsized vote. Like, imagine if our elections, you got to vote for every dollar in your bank account. Like, that's how this governance shit works. Like there's no like, oh, you own one token, you get there's not even really like quadratic voting either, which is something that I think should be used more. And I know Vitalik talks about it more where, there's as you own more tokens, your votes are exponentially worth less. Like, you still get more votes than owning one token, but it's worth less as you gain more and more. And I just think about how, I mean, our elections already feel pretty broken, but imagine if just
Right.
every dollar in your bank account was an extra vote. Um, and it would just that's how all the governance and all this shit works. So it's very much already, if price is up or down, like an oligarchy, a lot of these things, they have big seed investors or Series A investors, and they're getting a big chunk of those tokens that they can immediately vote with and sway what they want to see. Sometimes you have like hostile takeovers. I think I'm not super well versed what's going on with Compound right now, but that's one of the lending platforms, and
Yeah.
there's been a entity that's got a pretty big controlling interest of tokens and has been doing some things that some of the other people who hold the token are not happy with. But since the vote is the vote, things happen. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone generally excited to like participate in governance. Um, I I've tried it myself in a few different things, probably most notably Noums DAO, where I lost like, I don't know, 150 ETH on a couple Noums getting involved with governance. And
Yeah.
shout out Andy. And Andy got me into not he didn't get me into the Noums, but he was one of the people who was like, yeah, it's a good idea. This is gonna work. Like we're gonna do some cool shit here.
And I mean, it's one of those things where, again, I like the idea of it. I love the idea of it, like when DAOs were very big. Love the idea of DAOs. Love the idea of returning power to the people. And this is so much
I'm
larger
still in
than
a
just
few of those.
crypto. Yeah, I mean, this is so much larger than crypto, though. Like, this could extend to a whole country. This could extend to, I mean, your student body at your university, whatever. There's so many ways for these things to work. But I mean, I don't know how what your experience in DAO has been like, but I keep coming back to this. In 2018, Deeze, I bought a main event team on FFPC with 10 other dudes. We just wanted to try it. We were all in the Slack for dailyroto.com, or 2019. We bought a team. We did it. We won our league. We won our league. So that means you get more teams. You get to roll them over. So for like 6 years, I've been rolling over and drafting multiple high stakes fantasy football teams with my friends. And guess what? Every fucking year with 10 people, it's a nightmare. We
Oh,
can't
I
agree
bet.
on anything. We fuck up start sits. We fuck up the waiver wire. We make all kinds of mistakes. We argue all the time. And that's 10 people. And that's a fantasy football team, like the lowest stakes imaginable. Imagine trying to govern like a company or a country or anything with 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 50 million, 300 million different people, all with competing ideology and interest, who have to vote with their dollars. I mean, it is crazy. I'm so conceptually attuned to it, but I don't think it really works in practice.
Yeah, I'm in a couple of DAOs. One of these DAOs has like over $10 million of assets, and out of the 50 plus people in the DAO, there's probably only like 15 who are even active, who show up to the daily calls and stuff. There's
Yeah.
people who haven't contributed anything in like 2 years. Like they don't use the Discord, they don't join the calls. They still have an equal stake in the DAO as other people who are there every day. The incentive structures are just completely misaligned. um you need like a dictatorship of sorts, right? Like if you have a big company and it's a DAO and you don't have a CEO or founder with a vision who is like saying, hey, this is what we're doing, this is the mission plan, this is how we're going to go do it, you just kind of have the prisoners running the asylum, or like the inmates running the asylum, and it creates all sorts of weird things. And the incentives are just kind of backwards, I think, with DAOs, right? Like you need a good incentive structure to get people to contribute actively and to make good decisions. And there needs to be like some type of reward for the people who are actively contributing and making decisions that make the DAO money. Because if not, you just have a bunch of free riders who, for better or worse, can't really get kicked out. Um, and I'm in like, I think like 3 DAOs still, and I'm definitely a free rider in one of them. Like I get
Who's
an
got the
email
time, man?
I put in 25 grand, it's going to zero. Like I don't really care. I don't want to think about it. When I get an email from the DAO, I'm like, oh fuck, I'm still in this damn thing. Like there's really no way for me to leave it or get my money back. So I'm just kind of this like apathetic barnacle on the side of the DAO, just sitting there. But then the other DAO where we have, over $10 million worth of assets, I'm in those calls at least 75% of the time, and I'm in the Discord every day or two. So I do try to spend time there and make sure we're making not stupid decisions. But there's no incentive for me to really do so other than like hopefully the assets that we own go up and then my share of the DAO is worth more in the future and then I can sell it to somebody else. But it's a lot easier just to manage your own portfolio. Like I do that full time with my own stuff and then I don't need a vote. Like, a good example is this Prime token. You've been able to stake this Prime token for like 2 months to start getting rewards in a future token. Our fucking DAO still doesn't have any of the tokens staked because people won't vote on the proposal. And if people don't vote on the proposal, we can't stake the tokens. So we've missed 2 months worth of potential free money because we won't vote on how to fucking do it. And it's just
on how to do it.
Shit like that happens all the time. And you're like, okay, I could just go into my own wallet, stake my own money in 1 second and be done with it. And I don't need to sit there and at everybody at here. Hello, guys, please answer. Please, guys, please click the button. Please vote. Please. Like, it's just like you're fucking begging people to try to make a decision that's good for the rest of the people in the group. And just sucks. And I'm not even in like DAOs that are, big token related. Like I'm not governing L2s or I'm not governing chains worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Like I'm actively selling those tokens if I have any, or if I invested in them and I get a monthly unlock. The minute I get the unlock, I'm clicking market sell all and just taking the USDC out of it because I'm not going to delegate my vote to somebody else. I'm not going to spend the time to read the governance proposals and vote. So why would I want to own the token?
I think those are. I think that's very wise in general. I mean, I would love to be wrong. Like I would love for 5 years from now, 3 years from now, for things to look different, for there to be different market mechanics. I mean, not even market mechanics. I would just love for there to be digital organizations. Like this kind of ties in with Glenn Will's book, The Plurality, about, just like different frameworks of what government can look like and how even inside of governments or inside of societies, groups of people can create decisions for their subset of society. But that is pretty nitty gritty. I want to zoom out a little bit more. And I really just want to ask, what the fuck happened with Solana? Like in my mind, Solana was the SBF token. It was all VCs. It basically was like the tool of a literal criminal. It was down at $6. How did Solana come back? How did that happen?
Yeah, so Solana has a bad rap because, like you just said, a lot of people look at it as like the SBF chain. The big thing that Solana had going for it is that it's fast and cheap, and there's no liquidity fragmentation on Solana. Like Ethereum, back in the last bull market, I'm sure you remember paying over $100 to do things. Sometimes when you wanted to buy an NFT, it would be like $300 in gas. Sometimes if you wanted to move a token, it would be $50. If you wanted to use Uniswap, it would be $500. And once it got to a certain level of adoption, it was just too prohibitive for most people to use, especially on like, if you had a bankroll under 10 grand and you're paying 1% of your bankroll per transaction, like that's just not sustainable. It's even worse than what we were talking about with the slippage stuff. So after the SBF trial, it really felt like there was this cleansing effect on the Solana ecosystem. Like they kind of expelled the demon in a way. It was like an exorcism. And throughout the whole time, there's been people building things on Solana. It wasn't just like people came back to Solana after SBF went to jail. It was more like, okay, now the people who've been built, like the Cheetos of the world, right? We were talking about them earlier. Now it's like they have a working product. It's very, very good. It's like a combination of Lido and Flashbots in one token. And there was nothing like that on ETH. And there were some other compelling things, I think mostly in the DeFi and like the trading space that just ended up getting more attention. And then people were like, wow, like I bridged money to Solana and it only costs a 1/10 of a cent to use. And sometimes like there was this kind of a bad rap that like Solana would go down all the time because when they were bootstrapping it, there were issues with validators sometimes. And, maybe a couple times a year it was going down. It wasn't like some people thought Solana was going down every day, or
Right.
it wasn't. Uh, so people started using it and they're like, oh, this is pretty good. Like I'm not paying much in fees. Like the UX is, I mean, if you're still using MetaMask, like the UX of using Phantom is better. I mean, you could definitely argue that if you're
That's
using,
so that's true. Those are really my only experiences in, quote unquote Web3 wallets, and I do like using Phantom more than MetaMask.
yeah, there's some better ETH wallets now. A lot of people use Rabby, Rabby. There's Rainbow. There's some other ETH wallets that are significantly better than MetaMask. But like most people who were around last cycle, they were using MetaMask and they're comfortable with it, so they don't update it. Whereas Solana now, they have Phantom and they have Backpack. Those are kind of the two big ones I use. But the UX of it was just like, wow, this is easier to do and to find things. There's still downsides to Solana, like transactions sometimes fail on Solana where like you don't get during times of like high volatility and you have lower slippage settings, like sometimes you'll fail like 5 transactions or something. Whereas in ETH, it's easier to know you can just make the gas fee really high and pay for it, but you're paying for that. But yeah, I think Solana ended up like last cycle felt like everybody was denominating their portfolio in ETH. It was like, okay, I'm
Yeah,
trading these things to get more ETH. And then basically ever since the merge happened, or where ETH went from proof of work to proof of stake, it's
right.
been pretty hammered versus Bitcoin. I think it's down around 50% from where it was. If you look at like September 2022 on the chart to now, that's around when the merge happened. And people were like, okay, well, what could kill ETH? Like, there's always this, you're looking for a narrative of like what can unseat something at the top that is going to go up more than the top tokens. And Solana was kind of the clear number 3 because a lot of people were using it. They realized it's really good. There was a lot of tech being built on there. Basically, anything you could do on ETH felt like you could do it on Solana. There were all the NFT marketplaces that popped up. There were the decentralized exchanges. You have the same type of the liquidity pools are rougher on Solana. Like I think the Uniswap product's still significantly better than Radium, but it exists. I think Orca might be a little better in my experience, but everyone uses Radium and it's kind of a pain in the ass and a little more like the skill gap of using Radium versus Uniswap. There's like a order of magnitude more skill. I feel like
Even I could use Uniswap.
yeah, I
Even
mean
I got in some Uniswap trades.
yeah, I mean, well, I'm talking about like the liquidity pool in particular. Like you could set up a liquidity pool on Uniswap, use the V2 functionality and be on your way and not think too much about it. Whereas like on Radium, it's a bit more of a hassle. You got to get like these links and you can't just spin it up real quick and it's kind of a pain in the ass. But anyway, people are looking for this new narrative of like what could unseat ETH. And ETH really isn't competing with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's digital gold. Like people just look at it like a pet rock. They just want to hold it because they know that there's only going to be 21 million of them, and they think it's going to go up in the future.
That's me, baby. We could talk a little bit about the puppets here in a little bit, but
Oh
I
yeah,
love Deeze. I love my pet rocks. My pet rock has been so good to me. I've been a
yeah.
Bitcoin for like I think 8 years now. Was my first Bitcoin transaction was in maybe even 2015, maybe even 2014.
10 years.
Not 20. Well, it might have been 20. It really might have been 2014. It's been a long time. I like
But you
my
knew what
pet
you were
rock.
getting into. Like you're
I
like,
knew what I was
hey,
getting into.
there's this sound money narrative. There's 21 million of these things. Maybe in the future, it can surpass the market cap of gold. Or you had this idea that like you could peg Bitcoin to a market cap of a, very high commodity that has been around for thousands of years that you think this could surpass. Whereas like Ethereum, it's hard to make the argument that like Ethereum can flip Bitcoin or Ethereum can flip
Well,
gold because
that used to be the thing. That used to be the flippening. I think the couple issues with Ethereum. The first being it's changed what it wants to be so many times. Ultra fast transactions. Well, not really. Cheap transactions. Well, not really. Ultrasound money. I mean, I think the idea of turning ETH into ultrasound money was such a mistake in narrative creation because it was never going to be viewed as more ultrasound or more deflationary than Bitcoin. I mean, if I was Vitalik or any of the guys at the Ethereum Foundation, I would want to focus on, I suppose, what the layer twos are focusing on, which is cheap, quick transactions.
Yeah, and this year too, there was a EIP that passed. I forget the exact name, but the gas fees have gone down quite a bit. Like if you look at any given point in time over the last few months, like it's pretty cheap. Like right now, it's 4 gwei. I've seen it go under 1 gwei, which is kind of insane
Crazy.
because we were paying like 200 gwei during NFT summer for a transaction. So they have been doing some things to make it cheaper to use, but the fact that it's cheaper to use means that like less ETH is burnt on
Yeah.
transactions. Um, and they're trying to make it this like decentralized world computer that's accessible for everybody. But I don't think that means that like the price of the underlying token is going to go up a ton because they're making a cheap world computer that everyone can use. And if you're looking for yield, like that's another reason Solana feels a little better. ETH right now, last I checked, is like 3-ish%. Like let me go actually look it up so I don't just sound like I'm making that up, but it should be somewhere around 3%. Yeah, it's 3% on Lido with staked ETH right now. Whereas if you were to go with Jito Sol or some of the other stuff on Solana, you're getting like 8%, sometimes up to 10%. So if you're just chasing the strictly like yield bearing asset play, Solana seems better there too. Because not only if you've held Solana for the last year, are you up a couple, more than a couple multiples against ETH, you also got significantly more staking yield. And all that staking yield is in terms of Solana, not USD, which means that that yield also went up as the price went up. So for the people who are more like motivated by yields, I think Solana was a little more attractive. Also for the people who were using both the platforms, I think it's easier to sell Solana to new people, or at least that's been my experience with friends, like getting them onboarded to MetaMask and getting them onboarded to Solana. They seem to like Solana because they don't need to go to the different L2s. Like when you tell people, okay, there's this L2 named Base and Coinbase owns it and there's an ecosystem there, but then you need to bridge. And now I'm actually farming Blast, which is another thing you need to bridge to go. And I'm doing this DeFi thing on Arbitrum. Oh yeah, you're gonna have to bridge over to Arbitrum. And it's like people just look at you
Yeah,
like, what the fuck?
this is
I'm
all
gonna jump off a bridge before I do anything you're telling me.
me. It's like I hate all this stuff because it's so convoluted, and I get it from the individual developer standpoint. You're like, no, my vision of a layer two is not this. My
And
vision
layer
of a
twos
layer
are making
two.
a lot of money, like off revenue too. Like so people are seeing Coinbase make a bunch of money off base and they're like, well, why don't I make an L2? It's kind of trivial now to make an L2. Like I don't know the full tech stack, but I know that I'm seeing like art L2s come up and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, like it's to the point now where it's cheap enough and low enough friction to spin up a new L2. Like, why would you adopt an existing L2 where you don't control the token and you don't get the rewards when you can just make a new one? Whereas like Solana, it's fast, it's the L1. You own the Solana token, which is also the token of the network. It's not just like a bullshit governance token. Um, so I I put a good amount of my ETH into Solana in like last November and December, and that ended up being one of the best trades I made. And it was mostly because I was using Solana a bit more after that Cheeto airdrop, because I was like, oh shit, like I've been ignoring this too much. Like, let me see what other stuff we can start farming. And as I was using it, I was like, man, this is just way better than I remember. Like my transactions aren't really failing. Everything's super cheap. Like the DeFi suite of products is very robust and seems pretty close to what's available on ETH. Like a lot of people
They
hate
have they have they
Solana.
have NFTs and NFT trading on Solana. Although, is there a good Solana NFT marketplace? I don't even know.
Yeah, there's a couple big ones. I'm gonna be biased here because I'm an advisor for them, but Tensor
No,
is kind of
do it.
like the Blur of Solana, or the professional trading platform. But outside of Tensor, another big one is Magic Eden. So a lot of people they'll use like Magic Eden is where people also trade ordinals and other stuff. Like it's more multi-chain.
Okay. Let's talk about ordinals. Let's talk.
Yeah, let's talk.
I again, you want to talk about something that people have really strong opinions about. People have really strong opinions. I mean, the Bitcoin maxis have really strong opinions about everything. I am definitely open-minded to just Bitcoin being used for more stuff. Like, the block sizes are what they are. The block size wars, they're over. The maxis won that one, and I honestly, like, winning against Roger Ver, I think they should be applauded for that. I think they're like, those guys fought the good fight. They won. Shout out to them. But NFT trading on Bitcoin, I mean, I'm sure that you know this, is like, it's a goddamn hassle.
It's horrible.
It was not built for this. The same way that it became clear after 10 years, it's not really built for quick transactions. It's not really built to buy coffee, which is fine. It's totally fine that that is not what Bitcoin is or what it's being used for. Maybe someday there will be a successor to Lightning, an L2 on Bitcoin that is trustless, that people like, and that is very easy to use. I would love it. I mean, right now, if I could, when I get a check from YouTube, when I withdraw from Patreon or whatever, if I could just have it immediately go into Bitcoin and then have a wallet app that would do the USD conversion for me to go buy coffee or groceries or whatever, I would probably, I mean, now I'm a sicko. Not very many people would do this, but I would do that.
So I like holding my Bitcoin, but I don't like to spend it on coffee or anything really. But with like ordinals in particular, I think I like the idea of having pictures on Bitcoin. Like the UX of acquiring an ordinal is absolute trash. You have 10-minute blocks that are sometimes 30 minutes or longer. You're at the mercy of 100+ people using sniping tools where they can just replace your transaction with their transaction with a higher fee and buy your shit from out from under you. And it's just kind of like a very bad experience for first time people. Like I've had quite a few people try to buy a puppet. They think they bought it because Magic Eden tells them they bought it. And then when the block goes through, it's not in their wallet. And they're like, well, what the fuck happened? I still have my Bitcoin and I don't have the puppet. And it's like, well, yeah, there was this guy and he was using a tool where he can just watch the whole mempool. And he really liked that puppet you were buying. So he just sniped it from you. And then they look at you like, what the fuck happened? Like, what do you mean they can do that? And I've seen that happen. Like, there's just a bunch of people trying to market make this stuff. And if they see a puppet or a node monkey or any ordinal that's under, 10% of market value in the mempool, they'll fight over it amongst each other. Like it's kind of like that meme in the church where everyone has a gun pointed to the back of each other's head. And it's just like that with snipers on the Bitcoin mempool, but instead of like 5 people, it's 100 people. I had it happen to me last month where nice puppet on the floor I wanted to buy. I've been watching people snipe it and I'm sniping it back from them. But since it was a 30-minute block and we had sniped each other like 13 times and the fee was now up to $1,000, I didn't time my last snipe correctly. And as I went to send the transaction, the block finally processed and it went to the guy who just most recently sniped me. And it was like, this is horrible for the average person. They don't even have access to these tools I do. And I'm still not getting the ones I'm trying to buy. But I do think I think runes are like completely separate. I kind of think runes are just shit. Like if you want fungible tokens, I don't think you should be doing it on Bitcoin. But I do think there is merit to having like expensive pictures on Bitcoin for more or less a lack of better words.
I mean, Bitcoin itself is like, I've heard this case before that Bitcoin itself should be viewed as like a collectible. Like Bitcoin is now, Bitcoin, I think, is just part of the story of the modern world.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best internet money there is. So even if, let's say theoretically Bitcoin gets 51% attacked and there are more than 21 million, or just whatever your personal conspiracy theory or your feeling about Bitcoin is, that even if any of those things happen, it's still cool to own because it's a part of the history of the internet and part of the history of the modern world. So if that's true, which I think it is true, then why would you not want to have cool artwork on the Bitcoin blockchain? I think you would. So all that's cool, but me myself personally, I would never spend Bitcoin on art on the blockchain.
But you'll spend it on a coffee that you're gonna drink and then throw away the cup?
No. So I didn't do a good job explaining that. Basically, what I'm saying is I would maybe I'm just being talking out of my ass because I'm on a podcast, but I was saying I would hold my entire net worth or my bank account US dollars just in Bitcoin, and when the market goes down 10%, it's like you got fired that month or whatever. Basically, more or less. That was more what I was saying.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think too, for me, I'm just very biased to like the pictures, and historically I've done very well picking out the cheap picture and holding on to it for a while with a bit of delusion, and then seeing some life-changing realization at the end of the tunnel. But I really only own a few node monkeys, like maybe 25 puppets now, and a few other things. But I was also early to these. Like I bought most of my puppets for under $500. They went up to half a Bitcoin. I only sold 3 of them. Took all that 1.5 Bitcoin and plowed it back in other shit that basically went to zero like an idiot. So then I tax loss harvested it and it feels like a wash. And now I still have like 20 puppets or whatever. And it's, yeah, they make me laugh. I look at them and if they went to zero, I wouldn't really care that much because they just crack me up. And the artist is this hilarious European dude who really, puts out there's no expectations for this. Like he's not building a clubhouse or a video game or anything. He's just like, making fucking funny, wholesome, autistic memes. And that's the type of stuff I want to see more of in the world. So buy them and support it. Also feel like the puppet for me really embodies my personality more than like any profile picture I've ever had. It's like the chaotic.
So I tried to use it. Spoiler alert for the thumbnail of this YouTube video. I need it in a better. If you send it to me, I can do it for the thumbnail. I need a better aspect ratio. The punk was easier to do for the thumbnail, but I can do, if you send me the puppet, I can do the puppet instead.
I'll send you it. The issue with the puppet and the issue with Bitcoin pictures in general is that you can't have these big files. You don't really get like a nice high resolution thing. And I mean the puppets, the punks aren't a big file, but there are nice apps that upscale them very nicely because you can just be pixel perfect with them. Whereas the puppets, I think the resolution of even like the best one I have might not be great, so it might be better just use the punk. But they just have a special place on my heart, man. Like they make me smile. And I'm not buying a ton of other pictures, right? Like on Bitcoin at least. Like I have some art my friends have done that I thought was kind of thoughtful, like particularly how people use the specific attributes of like sats, because on Bitcoin, if you want to inscribe any art, you need to do it on a sat, which is like, for the people who don't know, the smallest unit of a Bitcoin is a Satoshi or a sat. And some artists have done some pretty thoughtful things where like they take certain sats from certain dates and then they have pieces that are based off of that date and it's on a sat from that date. You also have these like parent-child inscriptions. So it's easier to see provenance because in Ethereum, you can just see like who minted the token. But with inscriptions, it's a little harder to track provenance. So these artists do these parent-child things where you can see like kind of a tree of like the artist's first inscription and then the child tokens under it, and then how they have these collections broke apart. So if the people who are doing more thoughtful things, I was like, I want to support this because I think it's kind of cool. And also we were buying like things people forget, before ordinals, we were buying, counterparty assets, which are essentially Bitcoin assets years ago, like rare Pepes that have been out for 7+ years. And a few of them have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars before ordinals were even a thing. So it's not like it's this new revolutionary thing. It's a little more built into the protocol rather than a layer on top of it. But people have been using Bitcoin to kind of custody art for a while now. which I think kind of gets overlooked. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, ordinals is so revolutionary. We can finally do this." And it's like, well, we've been doing it in a roundabout way for like 7 years before ordinals, but this is a, easier way to explain to people. So it is cool. Um,
All right. Last thing I want to cover, then we can get you out of here and we can move on your way. Explain to me the DJT saga in which Donald Trump's son, Barron, with the help of Martin Shkreli, yes, that Martin Shkreli, what was it? Was it cancer medicine? Was it AIDS medicine? Was it diabetes? The guy who went to jail for price fixing medicine, which you know how hard you have to commit a crime to go to jail for something in medicine or health insurance in the United States of America. It's got to be a pretty blatant crime. Martin Shkreli and Barron Trump rugged a token on Solana. What happened? Please give me the play by play.
yeah. So, and I could just be completely off. Like, let me just preface this. This is what I've seen. Um, Martin had become somewhat close friends with Barron and a few of Barron's like Nepo baby friends. In particular, this kid named Cameron, who is the son of Jeff Epstein's pilot. Um, and they released this DJT token. From what I've understood from all the spaces I've heard Martin talk about, there's a lot of infighting in the Trump family between the different kids. It's very Game of Thrones esque. Like, think of the Trumps kind of like a.
Well, doesn't that make total sense? Because they probably never spend any time talking to their dad. So it's all like, guys, it's one for all, or it's every man for himself here for sure.
So apparently, Barron's pretty degenerate, pretty online, and he got wind that his older brothers in the family were going to try to make a dude. Jordan Addison leg
helped
carted
off
off practice field Wednesday. What the fuck is going on, dude? What are they doing in Minnesota? Are they practicing on fucking cement? Like, what?
It's not
Sorry
ideal,
to interrupt.
man.
Sorry to interrupt. I just got the underdog alert on my phone, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
No, legit. I mean that's legit. We are having a bad time. If you
Minnesota's just imploding.
The Vikings, let me tell you, Sam Darnold's projection just took a little bit of a hit if Jalen Naylor is playing.
I was so excited to go draft Sam Darnold lineups after this, and now I'm like, fuck. Like, I'm still excited, but I'm less excited. Is Hawkinson gonna get re-injured before he even comes back at this rate? I don't know. That'll fucking kill me. But anyway, so they get wind. Apparently, Barron got wind that his brothers were going to make a token or do something in crypto, and there was this idea that they had to front run them because that's what the Trump family does. It's like, well, how can we extract value off of our name? It feels like kind of how they all think about it. So they make this DJT token with Martin Shkreli. Shkreli had already released a couple other shit coins and is smart enough to understand how to set up liquidity pools and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he set up all this shit for them, gave them access to the wallet. Apparently, the only 3 people who had access to the wallet that eventually rugged the project were Shkreli, Barron, and this Cameron kid. And Shkreli claims that the Cameron kid is the guy who dumped all the tokens and took the money out. We don't have any way to prove that. I would say that's probably the most likely thing that happened, but would you be that surprised if it was Barron and not the Cameron kid? Probably not.
I mean, Shkreli is saying on Twitter that it was Barron, which honestly, to me, I think this is a rare case of you get what you ask for. Honestly, like if you're entering into buying unregistered securities on sketchy layer 2s, I think you just accept that that's often a transaction where you are going to be the loser.
We've already seen, last year, a token called MAGA came out with the ticker Trump on Ethereum, and it's still trading at $136 million market cap. But at one point, it was trading at a price 5x higher than this. Like, it was pushing $1 billion. and it wasn't an official Trump token or anything. You know, I'm sure you're aware of Bowden, but that was
Yes.
a shitty Biden meme that was also at one point trading over 500 million. And there was another token called Trump, which is another shitty non-associated Trump meme that was also trading at a very high valuation. Uh, so the Trump family, Barron, whatever, they already saw that, wow, there's a big demand for tokens with our family's name. Uh, Probably thought like, you know, we need to get a piece of this pie. Like we can't let these people just pump a MAGA token and we're not the ones making it. So they did what any good grifter would do and was like, well, we got to make a token. I think with Shkreli in particular, you know, his reputation's already pretty shit and he's already, you know, been in trouble. Like, I think the least likely outcome is that he's the person who rugged it and made the money. Like that seems like the dumbest thing possible. And I don't think he's that dumb. The person who rugged it took it out into a Coinbase wallet. You could see it on chain. So it's like
I mean,
they're
that's
clearly a
crazy.
doxed individual. Something probably should happen to them, right? Like if if there's foul play, Coinbase can very easily see where the money went. It's not like they tornado cashed it or anything. So there's that going on, and then we kind of saw some validation of the front running. I think it was last week or two, where like Eric and Don Jr. started talking about a crypto thing they're doing and maybe releasing. And that kind of led to the validation of some of the front running stuff where it's like, oh, okay, maybe they have been trying to do something for a bit with this. But at the end of the day, I mean, the whole family is just a pile of shitbag grifters. Like, you see the name Trump and you're like, shitbag grifter. Like, that's what I think.
You're like, I'll enter into a business negotiation, but I'm gonna shoot you in the back before you shoot me in the back. I mean, that's definitely what. Like, I'm sorry if you lost your life savings on DJT, but like, what did you?
I mean, you were
What
going to
were
lose
you
it on
hoping
something
for?
dumber in the future anyway. It's just financial Darwinism at the end of the day. Like, people who put more than they could afford to lose in any of this stuff, they were going to put more than they could afford to lose in something else at some point and lose it anyway. Hopefully, they learned a
Correct.
lesson. You know, I bought DJT the day DJT came out. We were visiting my in-laws and had my laptop with me. I had all my political meme coins on this laptop. As soon as I saw DJT, the first thing I did was sell all my political meme
All the rest
coins
of them, yeah.
because there was this idea that there's only a set amount of money playing in political meme coins. And even if there's like a 5% chance or less the DJT token is real, people are going to sell their existing non-Trump affiliated political meme coin to buy the thing they think is official. So I basically
Right.
sold all of mine and tweeted like, hey, I would sell this shit. Because if DJT has a chance of being real, you're you're not going to be happy with what your chart looks like in about 48 hours. I bought a little bit of DJT, hit like a small multiple of like a 2 or 3x. I saw it very early. Like I was drafting best ball lineups out near the pool at my in-laws while on Twitter on my phone. And I'm just a chronically online person and I saw this and I was like,
That
all
is
right,
an extremely online story right there. I'm on.
yeah,
I'm at the in-laws drafting best ball mania teams.
yeah, ignoring my in-laws to draft best ball while out. I was actually when I was mass entering eliminators, taking JJ McCarthy because I thought he could be the starter. And I was just vibing, and I'm always on Twitter, so I saw that, and I'm like, all right, like let's put 10 grand into this token and see what happens, right? Like I'm not putting $100 or $1,000 or $1,000,000 into DJT, but like 10 grand, this could be real. Why not? And then as soon as I hit a couple multiples, I sold all of it. And I watched it rip like another 3x or something. And I was just pissed off all day. I was just like walking around the in-laws, like, oh yeah, I was fucking had a ripper and I paper handed it. But then, you know, a week later it was under where I sold it. And it's like, oh shit, I'm a genius. Um, so I thought at the time there was a good chance it was real. It still seems like, I mean, it's in my mind, it's real. What is real, right? Like the token was released with the Trump name, and Barron Trump was clearly involved at most secondhand, but like it was the realest political meme coin we've seen. Even if you think it's fake, it was like it doesn't need Trump to come out and tweet about it for it to be real. In my head,
Imagine if he did though. Imagine if
dude,
he
if he
returned.
tweeted about it, it was ripping over $1 billion that day. Like no doubt, no doubt. Which
Imagine
is
if
why
his
that was the
return
thesis
to
of like,
Twitter
why not
was
buy some of
tweeting it.
this?
Yeah. Why not? Why not us, right? I mean, that is a better investment thesis than you're gonna find for a lot of things in the space. All right, Deeze, that was illuminating. I feel like I learned a lot. Before we get out of here, tell people about that we do a little pod and anything else that you'd like to direct people towards.
Yeah, if you want to listen to me yap for 2 to 3 hours at a time with some of my favorite people in the world, check out our pod. It's at We Do a Little Pod on YouTube, or if you search We Do a Little Pod on Spotify or Apple or any other podcast player, you'll find it. Other than that, I'll be drafting best ball. If you see me on DK or Underdog, feel free to at me and tell me how garbage my lineup is. I really get off on that type of stuff. And yeah, hopefully one of us ships $1.5 million grand prize this year. I feel like
I
we're
hope
due.
so.
We're getting due. And yeah, as always, it's just fun to talk to you, hang out, bullshit about memes. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Everyone, make sure that you are that you're checking out We Do a Little Pod. Make sure that you at Deeze if you see him drafting Jalen Naylor ahead of ADP to set up a Sam Darnold stack. And of course, as always, we will
If
be
you see me draft Tez Walker one more time, at me, and
shot
I
caller.
will pay you $20 because I need to stop taking Tez Walker.
All right, there we go. That's an official bounty. If you see Deeze in these streets, Eliminator, weekly winners, whatever, you see this dude take Tez Walker, you tweet at him, you tweet at me, and
I'll give you
I will
$20.
make sure that you get $20. And of course, we'll be back next week, everyone. Bye.